I'm Jeffrey Siegel, the host of the Mystic Journey podcast. I would like to welcome you and thank you for joining us. Today, we look to enlighten and enliven you with a thought-provoking discussion with one of the community's most successful and inspiring individuals. Everyone has a story, a life journey, a mystic journey. Today, our guests will share with you their personal journey, along with some of their secrets and some of the tools they utilize to get where they are today. Sit back and enjoy our conversation and look forward to being uplifted and emboldened with a positive discussion that may just propel you onto a new path or the next step in your own mystic journey. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Mystic Journey podcast. I'm Jeffrey Siegel, your host and the owner of Mystic Journey Bookstore and Mystic Journey Crystals in Santa Monica, California. For those of you who are new, I welcome you to another edition of our podcast where we explore the mystic journey of an amazing individual who we think will uplift you and maybe even hopefully inspire you to take your next step on your mystic journey. This week, I am more than honored to have as our guest Tiphany Adams. I've known Tiphany for years and years now, and Tiphany has just an amazing, incredible story. And on top of that, of course, she's an amazing, amazing human being. Tiphany is a life coach. She's involved in the Healing Arch. She's a speaker. She's been on TV. She's an inspiration to thousands and thousands. I don't know. I rarely use the term social media influencer, but Tiphany is very big on social media and has well over 150,000 followers on Instagram. And I've been debating as I've introduced Tiphany as to whether or not I would give a background as to her story and her path in life. And after thinking about it, I've decided not to do that. I would like Tiphany to basically, as we talk, to share her, in her words, her path, her, as I call for our podcast, the Mystic Journey podcast, to let her tell you her mystic journey and how it's unfolded and where it's led her to where she is today. And so with that, I want to say hi, Tiphany. It's great to have you here.
Hi there. I'm so honored to be a guest on your podcast, of course.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time for doing this. Like I said, I mean, we've known each other for a number of years. When I first met you at the bookstore,
Mm-hmm.
and have known you for quite a while now. And so, how I like to begin the podcast is to have my guests, really begin with sort of where they grew up and how their life began to unfold, even in their childhood and as a teenager, to begin to lead them on to this amazing path that they've been on and that you've been on. So, where did you grow up?
I am actually a California native, but I grew up in the northern part of California, the Central Valley. So I feel very, very blessed to be able to say, yes, I lived in Los Angeles for over 10 years, but I am a true native from California.
Not you didn't grow up as a city girl.
No, I did not. I mean, no, I didn't. I grew up, yes, in the country primarily, but I remember seeing like downtown Stockton and thinking that was like this huge, scary place because there was like tall buildings that, you don't see in the country where I primarily was raised. And when I went to Los Angeles the first time, I was like, oh my goodness, like it was such a huge game changer for me. Like, oh my gosh, there's elevators everywhere, and I had to work through that.
Wow. When did you first come to LA?
So it's interesting. I I went there as a teen with my family. Like we went to like the beach or something, but we stayed near the beach area and things like that. But I always felt called to go to LA since I was in my teens, even before my parents took me. I felt I was supposed to go there and do some work. Yeah.
Did you have, as you were growing up, did you have like a feeling or a drive to do any type of work in particular, or were you just sort of letting life come to you?
So, going back into kind of the background of it all. So, as a child growing up, um, I loved being so close to my family, and I was really close with my dad. My mother growing up had issues like, any individual can, right? So she had some alcohol and drug issues. And so I used to use theater arts and performing as my way to escape the reality of what was going on. And I fell in love with the performing arts. And so I was always involved and like, theater and choir, even though I'm not the best singer. And my dad would make jokes all the time, like, what'd you do with that money for singing lessons? I'm like, Dad, you never gave me money for singing lessons. He's like, my point exactly. Like, he'd always say, like, don't quit your day job, kid, that kind of stuff. And so from a young age, being completely immersed in the performing arts, I felt what better place to go to pursue that than Los Angeles. And I always wanted to model and that type of stuff, but I'm 5'2", so it's not like the typical height for a model back in the day where it wasn't as accepting and inclusive on all areas of shape, weight, and size, and different aesthetics, right? And so now things have changed, fortunately. So since then is when I felt that drive. Since I was a little girl to kind of go to Los Angeles, but it was just like a big dream and I wasn't really supported. My dad would make statements like, "You can't go there," he just wasn't. He didn't want me moving to a big city all by myself. So,
Right. And so um, when you finally came down here, was it pursuing your dream, or was it with your
yes,
family, or how did
yes.
that first unfold?
So it's really interesting how that all transpired. So, like, how do I put it into? Okay, so Archangel Michael came to me in a dream,
Uh,
and it was a very vivid dream, and things started to basically affirm to me like this is where you need to be. So to give even further backstory, I was in a head-on vehicle collision when I was 17 years old, and that was definitely um, a catalyst that pushed me further into my purpose than I ever thought possible, and not even knowing what that purpose was yet. And obviously, this is still something ongoing that we continuously learn and evolve to how we can be of service, right? With whatever circumstances we might have been through or gone through. Um, so I was the sole survivor from a head on vehicle collision. And um, that head on vehicle collision sadly and tragically took 3 lives. Unfortunately, I was very, very blessed to be
uh,
um, to be able to have lived through that. But I was pronounced dead on scene. They didn't think that I had made it as well, but literally by the grace of God, and that's my personal, powerful prayer thing that works for me. And everyone has their own path, right? Their mystic journey along the way. An off-duty fireman paramedic happened to be driving by at like three in the morning and seen that I was still alive in the back of the wreckage and moving
oh
my
my,
pinky and making a faint sound. And that's when they were able to get the uh, medical help needed. And they called, they used the jaws of life, cut me out of the vehicle, and then meta-flighted me to the nearest hospital. And then that's when, I was like in this black abyss of nothingness at that time. It was really odd to try to explain or for someone to really grasp. But I was like, it was like I had a decision or a choice to make. It was like I was begging God to let me live through this and allow me to just live. Like I wasn't, I needed to be here still. And I knew that. And I was asking for me to be able to live. And I then spent the next 3 weeks in an induced coma because the wreck was 130-mile-per-hour impact.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it was definitely, the license plates were melted together, and it was um, not something I had ever thought would happen, in my life. And I just knew that when I woke up, that it was going to be a tough road. I remember my father bringing a wheelchair to the side of the bed, and I wasn't certain why there was a wheelchair and what that meant. And I asked him, Daddy, why can't I feel my legs? Like, what? I don't understand. And he says, you're just not doing, you're just kind of sick right now, but you're going to be better. And he helped put me in the wheelchair. And I remember very vividly, he took me to like the third floor of the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center in the Bay Area. And it was overlooking the mountainside. And I remember very, very vividly him looking at me and saying, and he didn't even have to tell me spinal cord injury or paralyzed. It's like I didn't even know what that word meant, but it was like I knew that's what was coming, what he was going to say. And I said, Daddy, please don't say it. He says, I'm going to tell you this: God has blessed us with a miracle, and that is your life. And if I could trade places with you, I would do that in an instant. And I said I would never wish this upon anyone. And I knew it was going to be a tough road, but I know and knew then that I was going to get through it and make a difference somehow, shape, way, or form. And even at that point, I didn't know that I had lost my friend, or that the two other people had passed. I didn't know that was even the case. And so it was all different layers that I had to work through and process. And um, I have to say, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. But your bookstore, when I did finally move to Los Angeles, um, was like this, definitely like a healing sanctuary for me. So I
Oh,
want to
thank you.
thank you for that. It
Thank
definitely
you.
is just like in this big world of, chaos and hectic. And it was like, I love books and I love learning and I love knowledge and I love compassion and I love humanity and I love spirituality. And every time I would go into your bookstore, this is before I even met you, it was like a place of peace and a place that other people of like-mindedness could connect. And I felt really honored to be able to go into your store every time. That's since you were on Abbott Kenny.
Yes, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me ask, when I mean, it's an incredible. I mean, I'm sure you've been to a lot. I mean, it's an incredible story and an inspiring story, to have come through this. But how old were you when this happened?
Yeah, I was 17 years, so I was a senior in high school. Yeah.
Wow. And so let me ask a little bit of a different question. I have so many questions I want to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
So I think people may be interested in that time that you were in an induced coma.
Hmm.
Did what was your experience? Is that when the Archangel Michael came to you, or was that later? And just what if
Yeah.
anything transpired then?
Yeah. Great question. So the being in induced coma, I felt like I needed, this is so interesting. I didn't know that I was in an induced coma. I did not know that, right? And I just knew I wanted to be awake, and I wanted to be in control of the things that were going on. But it was like I was in a dream state and I couldn't wake up. And the interesting part is later thereafter, when I woke up, I was telling my dad, I was like, um, because I had a TBI, a brain injury as well from, the wreck. And uh, but my dad knew I was going to be fine and okay, right? The power of prayer. My family was praying and praying and praying, and hundreds of people were doing the same. And the miracle of that in itself, is incredible. But he told me he needed me to answer all these questions to the psychologist that was coming in, and I'm like, Dad, I don't like her energy. I'm not answering her questions. And he's like, baby, I need you to answer these questions. She's not going to move you off of this, the brain injury ward if you don't. And I'm like, I don't have to talk to her. And so, because I've
Mhm.
always been a little stubborn. Anyways, he tricked me and was answering questions, and the doctor was outside the door. And so the doctor was like, oh, she's totally fine. She is okay. She doesn't have an extensive TBI like we had thought. So they moved me a different floor. And so from the moment I was awake, I started getting more insight, and I would have very, very vivid dreams. But my dad was like saying, like, hey, do you remember this? And I'd be like, Dad, I had a dream, and this is how it started. I was like, I had a dream. I was on a helicopter ride and I was going to see NSYNC in concert. And my dad's like, what? And that's one of the things my cousins were telling me when I was in a coma. So, like, and then another time I was like, Dad, I had a dream I was driving Uncle Kevin's boat. And he's like, oh my gosh, because I was on a rotating bed at one point, and my uncle was pretending I was driving his boat. So everything that every one of my family members were telling me in that state, I was
Mhm.
actually experiencing in a dream. So the
Mhm.
helicopter ride that I was waiting for to go see the NSYNC concert, I was actually waiting for the second helicopter ride to go get um, the procedures done at the next hospital.
Mhm.
And so then I'm like, Dad, I had a dream that this person was doing this, the surgeon, and he looked like this. And he's like, oh my gosh. Like, so I was there and I was coherent, but I wasn't in the same sense. So,
Wow.
yeah. So
Fascinating. I think a lot. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's just like, it just was fascinating when he told me all of this. And then this is years later, when Archangel Michael came to me. This was after sustaining the spinal cord injury. Mhm.
So just so we're on the same page. So when Archangel Michael came to you initially was before the injury,
No, after. It was after.
after the injury, years after. Okay.
Yeah, years
Wow.
after, because I was, like, wanting confirmation to move to Los Angeles, and, I have a really big family. There's, like, over 65 of us in Northern
Oh my
California, a
goodness.
big, big
Okay.
yeah, so it's like me, the only one, move away from your family in a wheelchair, and take on big city life, like, and follow your dream, and the vision of believing that people in wheelchairs could model and could be in television and could make a difference in society, right? Having to take on the big, networks of television, and try to pave the way, not only for myself, but for all of those that may have experienced disability or were born with a disability for years to come, because I knew how tough and how hard it was to be treated the same, um, having a disability. Yeah.
Well, so let me take a step back. So when you after you left the hospital, the time between, leaving the hospital and then moving to LA,
Yeah.
how long was that and what was your rehab like? And more importantly, your the development of this feeling of this drive to do what you were going to do anyways, but to be an inspiration to so many others.
Yes. Yeah. So, to give even a little bit further about how all this whole thing of divine intervention and spirituality came to play. My dad's mother, my grandma Olga, um, she's an Italian woman, and she was a nurse. And so one of the amazing things that happened was, I didn't share this part, but my dad, I would say, should say miraculous. My father was hunting up in the middle of nowhere, up in the mountains, and this is years ago. They didn't have cell phone signals way up high, in certain elevations. Even now, they can struggle. But he's getting ready for the morning hunt, and it's like 4 a.m. And he's walking to his truck, and he sees his phone is flashing. This is odd. He answers the phone, and my stepmom has enough time to say, Tiffany was in a wreck. You need to get to the hospital. And the phone dies, no signal again.
Wow.
And he has enough time. It's like a 3.5 hour drive, and he makes it in an hour and a half because they had to do emergency surgery. But the interesting part was, my dad was kind of angry at God and everything, and because he lost his mother at such a young age from cancer. I didn't understand that at 15 years old. How could, if how could this happen? Needless to say, the floor that they metaflighted me and put me on happened to be the same floor that my grandmother was like the head nurse of.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so
There
that
are
was
no
like a big,
coincidences. There are no
yeah, a
coincidences.
big, big thing for him. Like, was like, wow, he knew then that his mother, my grandmother Olga, was with me. And then, um, you know, years later, she came to me in a dream. And then I started getting more and more. I mean, I always felt, I knew it. My mom would tell me, you're a special kid. You'll learn when you get older. And I just thought she was like, on drugs that day or something. She's like, you're a powerful little girl. You'll realize when you get older. And then more and more, I started having dreams of things and then them happening. And then this was like about, I don't know, 6 months after the wreck. I didn't necessarily understand survivor guilt because I didn't get into counseling like they wanted me to. I didn't necessarily do the full rehab that they wanted me to do. I was the fastest recovery they had seen. I just wanted to get out of the hospital. I was in the hospital October 15th, and then I was able to get released December 21st on the winter solstice. And
Wow.
for me, and that they thought I was in they thought it would be there 6 to 9 months. And I was just bound and determined to get out of the hospital. Um, get I enrolled in college. I got my driver's license. I graduated with my high school class because they didn't think that was going to be possible either. So that's how I graduated with high school class, went to college, got my license, enrolled.
But
Um,
all of this was while you were in a wheelchair, right? I mean, I want
yes,
people
this is
to
all in a
understand. I
wheelchair.
mean, it sounds like you're just like out and walking, but
That's what but no, that was my coping mechanism. That was my and I realized I do that. Gung ho, got 2 jobs. I got certified as a personal trainer, started working at the gym. But during all that time, I was dealing with survivor guilt, and I didn't realize that. And then finally, 6 months into it, my friend who had passed, she had asked me, if I wanted to sit in the front, and I said no. So that was also partial part of it. And she had a child, and I didn't understand how I was the one that lived, and everyone else was not there to. And they were all, incredible, amazing people. And she came to me and was in I thought, oh my God, am I asleep? But she came to me in this most beautiful white gown, and I'm awake. I was like pinching myself, and she floated in front of me at the foot of the bed. And it was like, it was her way to let me know she's okay. And that's when I'm like, whoa, like, whoa. And she actually used to work with disabled children and special needs. And so I thought that was really interesting how, I is thrown into the one of the largest minorities, and potentially misunderstood, which became this minority of having a disability, or classified as, right. And so it took me a few years um, to move to Los Angeles because I had to, fight the typical, like, you just get a job and you do this, and and that's kind of the life you live. You don't pursue your dreams because they're too risky. And I had to fight beyond all that. But in the meantime, during all of this, I was having dreams, and I'd be talking to people, and I would know things, not knowing how I would know these things. I would just names would pop up in my head when I would talk to people, and they'd be like, "Whoa, that's my grandfather and he passed away like it." And I'm like, "Whoa." Or I'd crack a joke, and then the joke would have to do with something they were going through, and me not knowing that, it would just be like this gift of insight, like a flashcard image that would pop up in my head. So then I'm like, "Oh my goodness, like, am I like super clairvoyant or something? Like, what's going
Yeah.
on?" And then your bookstore years later was such a catalyst to that for me, for full on acceptance,
Uh-huh.
and understanding this
Thank you.
incredible gift that I was gifted. Yeah.
Wow. Let me go back for a second because I think people in our audience would be interested in hearing a little bit more about your friend visiting you in the white gown while you were awake. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. I think a lot of times people either have trouble accepting that events like this occur, or have this curiosity and want to hear more to I want to say validate, but to let them know that there's more to our existence than just than what we can touch. And so I'd like if you could talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about that. I think they'd be interested.
Yeah, I mean, I would not have. I mean, I was in utter disbelief because I had never had that happen, in real life, like really being awake. And it was the most serene, surreal experience. I haven't had that since, right? It was just like a gift from her to me to let
Yeah.
me know, like, hey, I'm okay and I'm at peace. And it was so real. It was so real, and it's almost like a it wasn't like it was like you could see through her, you could see
Hmm.
through. It was but just gorgeous, like this gorgeous angel in a white just nightgown type thing that she just floated, and it wasn't like she was walking, it was like a floating thing across the foot of my bed. And I knew then, okay, I can do this. Like, she's at peace. She's okay. And then years
Beautiful.
later, the driver of the car, which was her friend, he also came to me in a very, very vivid dream to relay a message to his mother. And I wasn't sure how to do that because I had appeared on the Dr. Phil show, and to help heal, not heal, but help intervene per se on another's path in regards to them basically going through tumultuous experiences with heroin. And I showed up just to like say, hey, making conscious choices can save or change or affect your life and many others as well. Like, I hope to God that you choose sobriety, because I rolled out as a surprise guest in a wheelchair and showed her like what the outcome could be,
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
drunk driving, because I was hit by a drunk driver. And needless to say, he came to me to relay a message to his mother, and I was hesitant to do that because it's like, who am I, just to call, this mother who has lost her child and relay this message. But I didn't call right away. And then a week later, it was very interesting. He reached out, he's passed, right? And he
Hmm.
reached out to me through technology. And I thought, I literally answered a phone and the message said, hello, this is Jesse. I have a message. Hello, this is Jesse. I dropped the phone. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I knew then it was like, you need to call his mom. So I
Yeah.
did. And it was such a beautiful, I went through the vivid dream I had that he wanted me to relay. And it was such a blessing to be able to relay that message for her. And she needed that. And she gives thanks to me all the time whenever I've spoken to her. And um, because yeah, to be able to relay
Beautiful.
that to her was a huge honor for me.
Beautiful and amazing. So how old were you when you came to LA after,
24.
24, so 7 years? And then
Yep.
when you came to Los Angeles, how how did things unfold for you in this
Yeah.
next step on your journey?
Oh my gosh. Oh
A
wow.
nice
Okay.
tight question, right?
Yeah, no, it was literally destiny. Everything fell in place, like more beautifully than I could have ever even imagined or fathomed. It all lined up exactly how I thought it could and would. I mean, there was definitely trials and tribulations, but I started every Tuesday night I would go to bowling alley with my father. So that was just, he bowled and that was like the thing. So Tuesday nights in Los Angeles, I'm like, how do I fill that? So I started taking acting and theater classes with Otto Felix, who was one of the very first acting coaches to ever incorporate um, people with disabilities acting with people that do not have a disability, because not everyone wants to like do a scene with the person that that's just, this is years ago, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't want to do a scene with that person because they're different, right? They're different. um and And it could make some feel uncomfortable if they've never been around a person with a different physical challenge or, cognitive or whatever it might be. And so I felt so at home with Otto Felix. And so I filled my Tuesday nights with him, and he told me from day one, "You're gonna make it far. You're gonna make it very far out here." And I'm like, "What? I don't know about that." And just not, just I wasn't sure of it all. And boy, oh boy, was he right. 6 months later, he ended up passing, sadly, but he did ask me in honor of him to change the spelling of my name, which I did. And so he, to separate myself. And he I remember one night, Dwight Yoakam and him were best friends, and we were performing. I was performing at the Pacific Palisades Theater, and oh god, just to be able to spend time with those two and Dwight, it was just hilarious. But yeah, so that was the first, year, and then
Hmm.
everything lined up. I got modeling gigs. I was on like CSI New York, CSI Miami. I was on Castle. I got an agent, an incredible agent, and I got signed with Kazarian Measures and Ruskin Associates, one of the top KMR, one of the top agencies in the U.S. In New York and California, and I met amazing people in chairs like myself with spinal cord injuries, and I created like a camaraderie with a bunch of different individuals that also have very beautiful stories and catalysts that have taken them to where they are today as well.
I just have to chime in about how, I mean, look, I believe that everybody faces challenges in their life. That's part of living. That's what grows us. But in my experience, your challenges are have been more, let's just say, more challenging than most, and they're physical. As you know, there are mental challenges too, but on top of the mental challenges, you've had physical challenges, and to hear somebody talk about, I mean, when I listen to you, it's almost like, the easiest way for me is that, I mean, everything is okay, and you're living your best life. You're such an inspiration to know that, whatever comes somebody's way, it's not, I mean, well, it's their chance to grow, and they don't have to be held back or give everything up because of that challenge, whatever it may be.
Yes, it's so true. Oh my gosh. I mean, because of the divine path and purpose, and having the will and want to help make a difference in the world, not for only myself but for others. It was where I crossed paths with these other women in wheelchairs, and they had a vision to create a reality show that could help awaken people and be like, hey, yeah, we're in wheelchairs, but we live a sassy, fun life too. And like in Los Angeles, taking on the city, right, in wheelchairs. And so we
Yeah.
pitched a television series for a year and a half. And my friends, it's now her ex-husband, Dustin Wynn. He was on 21 Jump Street and all those things. He's an amazing person, human. He was also part of it. And Angela Rockwood was the creator and had this main vision. And we all went around and pitched, and some networks were like, "Ooh, I don't know if we're ready for this," and then others were like, "Oh, we're ready for this." And then it came to be like a bidding war, for this reality show, and it was produced by Gay Rosenthal. She produced uh, Big World, Little People. I can never say that. Yeah, Big World, Little People, Big World. And we ended up getting picked up, and we filmed for 2 years, and we won and
Wow.
tied with Duck Dynasty the Critics' Choice Award. So to be able to say that I won a Critics' Choice Award after just believing in a dream has been amazing. And I've kind of fallen back from the film and television stuff as of lately, but I would love to dive back into it. Obviously, I'm in Northern California, so I've been doing more tech stuff in the Bay Area, but I would love to get back more out there and visit you guys more because I love Mystic. And I have to say, um, it was Kira Oser who happened to be one of your readers at your store who helped me all in many levels when I went to see her. It was the first time I'd ever got a reading, and was unsure, right, who, okay, is this real? The same thing. Like, I don't know. Is this real? Do people really have these gifts? You know what I'm saying? Like me. And when I went to
Yeah.
her the first day I went in there, she's like, what are you doing here? You are a psychic and you're going to be able to probably read me in the future. No, not probably. She said, you will. You'll be able to read me in the future. She said that indefinitely. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh no, it's real. She knows. Like, and it was like the best. It was the best. She's an incredible human, and I give thanks to her as well.
Have you ever thought about in adding to your repertoire and doing intuitive readings? I mean, I thought of this earlier in the interview, but I wasn't sure whether to ask it. Has that ever crossed your mind?
Actually, I have been actually. I've been doing readings for over 10 years now. I just
Oh,
don't um, push it as hard, and but I do readings. And Kira was so right, and it makes me tear up because of her. She helped me accept it and hone it in, and she says you, and it's true. I've been able to help many many lives, and I do see people that have crossed over or passed over, not see them physically, like I had mentioned with my friend, but it's messages that I get to relay to people that are here. And I just always say a prayer before every reading, to allow the whatever healing needs to take place to happen gracefully, and thanking them, allowing me to be that messenger. And so I feel very very fortunate and blessed. But yeah, I mean, I would love to do it more as well because I know that it helps many
yeah.
many many people.
Yeah, I think we have a number of people who either visit our bookstore or have, readings with some of our readers who, like you, have this, they've had these experiences and then are not quite sure, these psychic experiences or intuitive experiences, but then they're not sure what to do with them. Would you have any advice for people like this who have this ability and then but then they're sort of at a loss? Because I mean, look, I think a lot of people, they don't even want to tell others that they have this ability because they'll sort of be like looked at like, ooh, you're a little
Yes.
weird, right?
Yes. Oh, that's, yeah, I had to work through that because I did feel ashamed on I felt ashamed because of it. And I,
Really?
yeah, well, yes, because it was looked, in certain religious aspects, it was looked upon as evil. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, this is a gift. Like, I help people in their healing process. It's like such an honor. And so you have to work through it. And then I now realize, and I'm able to say, like, hey, it's not for me to make you feel comfortable. That's on your own journey, to be comfortable with individuals' gifts and whatever those might be. And each person has their own path and their own journey, and to be able to respect that, and and know that, like, we're not here to judge others. We're here to just love and accept and do our best, right, to evolve whenever we're called to do so. And that's a conscious choice that we have to work through. But yeah, it can be timid to be like, okay, no, I'm owning this, I'm accepting it. But once you accept your gifts, then you're able to help others. And so that's kind of how it was for me. And then just like, oh my God, I feel it's I just, it's literally the biggest honor. And people are like, how do you do this? I don't know. I just know that it happens. And I have to
Mhm.
do the work also, though. Like, I have to make sure I'm grounded and I'm, doing my nature and doing my purging in whatever areas that is, just so I could be of service.
Right. It's about, I mean, look, to as I listen to you talk, I mean, I feel so strongly that I mean, being of service is the greatest thing we can do. And your life has become one of service. I mean, that's really what it is.
I try. I feel like I could be more of service though. And that's where I'm like, oh, that's like almost like I need to go back to Los Angeles because I was in the center of it all where you're crossing paths like constantly with those people. But then again, I'm not that far. It's an hour flight. So it's super easy. And I'm near all my family and I'm making a big difference out here as well. So I think it's just, again, I am so, so grateful for your store. And I always, whenever I go back, I always sneak in there. But how about the last time when I did that randomly and then you just happened to be in store that day?
Yes, yes, it was so special. I mean, I certainly miss you being here, and miss seeing you on a at least a semi-regular basis.
I know,
Um,
right? That was awesome.
right. And so, and in terms of, I mean, what what your what your vision for your future is. I mean, do you have things that you're looking to do, ways that you want to continue to reach out to people?
I love that question. I I definitely would like to be able to be involved in, say, day retreats or, workshops with others like minded, because I'm not the one to just host, to be really transparent.
Mhm.
I'm more of like, let someone else take the lead. And then I mean, I am a leader as well, but I definitely am. I'm a Pisces, right? I love to go with the flow. And again, yeah, do help with workshops, do more readings, of course, to help people on their journey, and speaking engagements, and if called to, obviously more, you know, television or things of that nature, whatever path that takes me on. But I also just enrolled back in school, so now I'm in nursing school too.
Really? Wow. That's
Yeah,
exciting, and certainly is needed these days. I mean, there's such
yeah.
a crazy shortfall I mean, of people who are willing to give in that way.
Yeah, so I just enrolled back in nursing. My undergrad is social sciences and humanities, liberal arts, but now I'm adding the nursing component to that.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So let me ask this. I mean, in terms of, again, advice or guidance for people who are wanting to, pursue their dreams, but have what they perceive as roadblocks, and not necessarily physical, but whatever the roadblocks may be, whether it's family or financial or, logistics or whatever. What advice would you give to our listeners to have that wherewithal to continue to pursue their dreams, no matter what the hurdles are that they at least perceive as hurdles that are placed in front of them?
Yeah, it's because this is a really broad question, right? And there's so many different answers. I feel that depending on what that dream is and how it's going to be of service to the world, and if it's serving you and your ego, or if it's serving humanity as a whole. And I feel like that's when it really has the ability to fully come into fruition, even more so. And like the whole ego thing, edging God out, and really being like, okay, is this going to only serve me, or is this going to serve others around me? And then being able to remove the I, and incorporate the we. Even though like I am is one of the most powerful statements, as we know, like
Mhm.
Wayne Dyer really made that really prevalent and well aware, as well as one of the greatest, Louise Hay, um, in her book, right? That book is an
Mhm.
incredible book. What is it? Oh my gosh, The Healing. Oh gosh, she has such a great book.
Cool.
But she has some great ones out there. But being able to just immerse yourself, with the ability that, like, hey, I can do this. And I am a huge believer in the affirmations, which obviously the I am part is going to be important. But, knowing that you can do hard things and you can get through every challenges that comes your way. And I feel like having a support system, and for me, that was going to the bookstore and your bookstore, and being around other individuals, and being able to go. You have awesome workshops there also, um, and being able to go there and do the research. Research is important too, and reaching out for help and removing strongholds. I think a lot of people don't realize they have strongholds on them, and
What do
that
you
could
mean by
be.
that word? I don't,
I mean, like, um, pre-programmed beliefs that might have been incorporated since birth and childhood, and not knowing that when we come from more of an open mind and an open place, not to say that you can't still have those beliefs, but be accepting of other ideas and other ways for things to work out for you, and not one way, kind of like it has to be this way, it has to be that way. And because look at, I knew since I was a child I wanted to be an actress, I wanted to be a model. I knew that. And look how it came to fruition for me. And I knew I wanted to help the world, but I did not know the way that that was going to come to play, having a spinal cord injury to be this catalyst for like that global platform.
Yeah.
And now I get to reach and help millions all over, just, and now it's via social media, because I'm not as in the heart of LA right now. But knowing that there is different ways that your dreams will come to fruition, and it might not be the way that you thought it was going to come, to full fruition.
Yeah, I think that's such an important spiritual teaching that sometimes we have these dreams, not dreams, but these desires, and
Hmm.
we there's a lot of spiritual teaching about manifesting, about using mental imagery and things, but I think sometimes we can make the mental imagery too rigid, and then things come to us, and they opportunities come to us, but because they don't look exactly like we think they should look, we miss the opportunity. There's an analogy of somebody who they wanted to have a lot of money. They wanted to be seeing all the dollar bills in front of them, and then down the road they ultimately became a bank teller, right? And
Yes.
so
Oh
they
no.
had
I know.
they had a lot of money, but it wasn't exactly how they envisioned it. And I think that to be open, to put out there this, there's this fine balance between having a vision that you want to manifest, but allowing it. It's like, if let's just say I want a car. Well, you can want a sports car, let's say, or a convertible, and then suddenly somebody offers you a free four-wheel coupe or something. Are you going to turn it down? No. I mean, you've got the car. I mean, you need to be a little bit flexible with all that, so that you've
Yes.
allowed this to be open, to allow this dream to unfold in your life. I think, again, is just so
Yes.
so
Oh my
inspirational.
goodness. My
um
vision boards, I had to throw them away because I I had them for so many years, and all of them had come true, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness. Oh wow, 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 wow." And then one of them too came true in another way, and I was like, "Oh my goodness. Oh, how did that happen?" But hey, I was like, I'm going to start fresh, and I need to make some new ones. So it's kind of a good idea, right?
yeah,
New vision board, a
always.
vision board party.
Maybe you can talk, because you brought up your social media, and at the beginning of your social media work, and at the beginning of the conversation, I mentioned that you had more than just a few followers. How First, what are your social media handles? But and then beyond that, I mean, what has your experience been in growing your platform?
Yes. That's another thing. I do help people, which I don't advertise it, but I do help people with their branding and their social media, and trainings of of that nature also, because I've been trained, and I was invited, right, with Facebook and Instagram, where I actually got professional training from them,
Well,
which was a gift in itself. Um,
the gifts keep
I
coming.
yeah, yeah, I love that. So I could help people doing that, like on a private sector for businesses, if that's something they would like to invite me to do. I could help them do that as well. But my social media handle is Tiphany Adams, Tiphany Adams. That's my Instagram. My Facebook is official Tiphany Adams. Um, and then my TikTok, oh Lord, help me there. I'm I'm learning that one as well, but I fortunately got like 3 million likes, but my followers are only like 61,000 on TikTok. But there's so many different platforms, and it's they all have different algorithms and different processes, and different demographics. Okay, so it's staying in the niche with that, and the different demographics and what your target audience is, And I also am a certified personal trainer. So then there's like the fitness component, which I have that niche. So I have a little bit all over the place with my different stuff. I share the day to day with the wheelchair sometimes. But I think just finding what your niche is and what your target audience is and what your goal is, that can really, really work. And there's so many different things depending on what your page is set at, because some people are like, I don't have music. How did you get that? And it all depends on what type of profile you have. So there's a lot of different little, you know,
Yeah.
nuances
You
within
know,
the whole platforms.
what comes to me is that you're a Renaissance woman. So many things. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fabulous, right? I just think it's again so inspirational. You're doing so many different things and helping people in so many different ways. Um, so, but as we're moving towards the end, let me ask a question that it's come up through the
Yeah.
whole through our whole conversation, but I wanted to ask a more direct question. I mean, how would you describe your spirituality, your bent towards religion and spirituality, and your belief in what I would call the one force, and that
Mhm.
is out there, uniting us all.
Yeah. I love Jesus and I love God, but I also love Buddha's teaching and I love the Dalai Lama. I love Guru. Oh my goodness. I love so many different philosophers. And I feel like Jesus was also a philosopher on his path.
Mhm.
But that's just been the direct link for me because he's been my saving grace in regards to the miracles that I've witnessed in my life from that. But I also love incorporating. I'm also certified Angel Reiki and 1 and 2, and acupuncture and nutrition, and foods that bring life. And I feel like there's so many different avenues, right, that incorporate all of it. But being able to just love and love and love and love and accept people for who they are and where they are in their journey, and knowing whether it's a vibrational match at that time or why you've been called to be of service or to be a teacher to that person during this time in your life period, and just having fun, really like enjoying the process. I will tell you though, during my healing process, when I went through the purging part, it was called reference point therapy. I did go through, like they call, a healing crisis, where I cried for like 2 weeks straight, and I was afraid of what would happen with that. But that's because I hadn't dealt with the wreck, but I had to purge it. And so once that was purged, it was like a new awakening. And back at it again. I'm better than I was, and I can help heal people because I went through that healing journey myself. And so we all have to take responsibility for that, and not holding on to it again, like I had mentioned previously, as a stronghold, and letting it go. And I'm like, let go and let God, allow that just to be free flowing in your life.
I
Mhm.
love what you say about about tolerance of other of all of the different paths there are to reaching that, what I would call, divine source of love,
Yeah.
and also that what may be an individual's resonance with one, what I call the spoke on the wheel, the spokes on the wheel, all leading to the center. Someone's resonance with one spoke for some period of time doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be wedded to that spoke for
Yeah.
their entire incarnation. That it
Yeah.
can change. Different things can resonate
Yeah.
with people at different times, and it's okay, to let go of one thing and to engage with another.
It's so true. It's so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful to learn all these different teachings from different people. And oh, I love the Chopra meditations. And by the way, you have always had amazing readers at your bookstore. They're always great energy. They're
We're
all,
very blessed.
just to specify that. I didn't want, because you do always have great people in your store, great readers. It's always been a blessing. I haven't got a reading in so, so long, but man, that sounds
Yeah,
fun.
well, and what I appreciate your kind words, and we've been blessed. I mean, some of our readers that are, they've been with us more than 10 years, some almost since the very beginning of the bookstore, now nearly 15 years ago. And
Yeah.
I
Wow.
think
I
it,
think I've known you for 12 years or
yeah,
13.
yeah, I know it's been a while. And look, I mean, one of the certainly the great joys I get and now, being a small business owner, is all the people that I've met over all the years, and all the relationships that I've developed and kept, and people who come back in who I haven't seen in an extended period of time and reconnect. It's just, I mean, look, I think that, again, it goes back to your statement about love. I mean, everything that, is really about personal relationships and that connection, which is really you know, that that love connection. I mean, and love
So
at like a, at a soul spiritual level. It's
yes,
really what
yes.
is so beautiful about what
I
what we're
have to
doing.
say this. One thing, one wish, and one desire, and one goal would definitely be to get a book out and have it on your shelf. So,
The space is there for you.
yeah, I love
That
that.
will always
I'm
be
excited for
true.
your book.
Well, thank you. It's been that's been a wonderful joy for me as well, and the great feedback. So, if you ever need any, any advice on writing and publishing, I'm here for you.
I will
So,
definitely take you up on that offer.
well, look, Tiffany, it's been an absolute pleasure to spend, this hour with you, and to hear your amazing story and your amazing mystic journey. It's so inspirational to so many people. So, just once again, I mean, if people want to reach out to you for any one of these like myriad of different things that you do that you can
Mhm.
help with, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Probably directly to my website, which needs a revamping, but you can still book a session there or nutrition plan, whatnot, at www.tiffanyadams.com. Yeah,
Okay, and you,
Tiphany.
I'm sorry, say it again. I leaped over you.
Oh, no, it's just the spelling, the Tiphany Adams. Yeah,
Great.
tiffanyadams.com.
And the same thing for Instagram. It's Tiffany Adams with a
Yep,
PH. Yeah, wonderful. Well,
that's me.
again, Tiffany, thank you so much. And to everybody out there who's been listening and enjoying what Tiffany's had to share, I want to thank you for being part of the Mystic Journey podcast. And we hope you enjoyed it and that you'll be back again. And as always, if you have any questions you would like to ask me, you can reach me, via email at jeff@mysticjourneyla.com. And until next time, stay positive and see beauty in all the things in your life, and keep your mind focused on exactly what you want to create. Thank you again, and we look forward to having you back next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mystic Journey podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to having you back again for our next podcast. If you have any questions about what you heard on the podcast today, or would like to share your thoughts on the podcast in general, please feel free to email me at jeff@mysticjourneyla.com. Until next time, stay positive, see the beauty in all things, and keep your mind focused on creating exactly what you want in your life.